One rainy evening, I found my 4-year-old daughter sitting on a low step in our veranda. Now, she seemed to be in deep conversation with someone quite small. And as I peeped over her shoulders, I was surprised to find her talking to a real-life, bottle-green, large-eyed marsh frog. "Meet Kikatu Amma," she declared. "He is my best friend." Now, Kikatu would prove to be an elusive best friend. He would hardly come to see her for days together. But in my daughter's world, she imagined him everywhere. And boy, did I find Kikatu useful. I could get my daughter to wake up early, brush her teeth, have her veggies, all by whipping stories around Kikatu that he would be very upset if she didn't do these things. You can only wonder at how useful Kikatu was for me as a young mom. Now, parents have always known the power of fiction. Think back on a time when you were little and your parents told you stories to get you to do something. I'm sure all of you here will have some exciting, surprising, and sometimes astonishing stories to share with me. My mother would tell my sister and me that having 2 glasses of milk a day would magically turn our cheeks pink and make our complexion glow. And the tomboy in me, I managed to convince the beauty queen and my sister to drink all 4 glasses of milk, mine as well as hers. Or take for instance the father who convinced his little girl that alcohol was dabbed before an injection to numb pain. Now his daughter would believe this for years, till she had a rude wake-up call from her friends. But my most favorite work of fiction was spun by a mother called Grace Welsh. You see, her son, he had a stuttering problem. And one day, Jack came home from school. He was very upset because his friends had bullied him for his stuttering. And Grace tells him, "Jack, you're way smarter than your friends. And you stutter because your brain works faster than your tongue." Now, these were words of fiction by the mother, but the child would take it to heart and it would boost his confidence. He would grow up to become a celebrated CEO and one of the world's fastest speakers. Yes, I'm talking about Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric. So you see, fiction has the power to instill discipline, numb pain, and even inspire greatness. I experienced this power of fiction myself as a young child. I was only about 9 years old when I visited the circus for the very first time. The whole town was a buzz of stories of how magnificent the show was, and I just couldn't wait to go and see for myself. I still remember the pungent smell of animals as I walked down the dusty carpet towards the colorful tents. The view was a child's wonderland. There were lights flashing from the tents, popcorn and cotton candy stalls were packed with children, and a good number of clowns were running about, welcoming everyone to watch the show. And as I stepped into the tent, the very first thing that caught my eye was the central arena or the stage. I ran to my row and I picked the best seat and I waited for the show to begin. You can imagine my delight when elephants breezed in. Now these elephants, they tried to balance their bulky bodies on humongous rubber balls, and they even played football with the crowd. This act was followed by bears who wore funky clothes and skirts and danced for the audience. But nothing prepared me for the wildcats, the lions and tigers that came roaring onto the stage. They demanded attention, and they displayed their powerful bodies on wooden planks and even jumped through hoops of wildfire. The ringmaster, he controlled all of them with a powerful whip. I was spellbound. I believed this was the happiest place for animals, and secretly, I wanted to join the circus when I grew up. Now, they sold the story that the circus was the happy place for animals and animals loved entertaining us humans, and I bought it. This incident would get tucked away as a happy childhood memory. I didn't give it much thought. Years later, almost a lifetime after I went to the circus, and now me as a young mom to 2 little girls, I happened to read an article about rhinos in South Africa. The article explained how the rhinos were being dehorned in an attempt to save its life. Now, let's take a moment to allow this news to sink in. Such a defining feature of such a magnificent animal was being taken away just so it could survive in its natural home. This article made a deep impact on me. Around the same time, I also happened to watch a documentary called Blackfish. And I'm not sure how many of you in the audience have watched Blackfish, but if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. It is a heart-wrenching, compelling story of orcas in captivity, and one in particular called Tilikum. Now, orcas, as we all know, are otherwise called killer whales. They're a kind of sea-going dolphin. They are highly intelligent mammals, and they live in social units called pods. And each of these pods, they comprise mainly of the family members, and they have a distinct language, culture, and tradition which they pass down generations. They are apex predators. They rule the waters, and they travel for miles together every single day. Now, Tilikum would just be 2 years old when he's snatched away from his family. The entire hunt is described quite vividly in this documentary. In fact, it is one of the men who went for the hunt that narrates the incident. He says how they went at these orcas with everything they had: bombs, boats, helicopters. And he says how this pod was so intelligent that the males led the hunting party on a different direction, while the mothers and calves, they went deeper down into the ocean. If not for the helicopters that spotted the mothers and babies when they came up for a breath of fresh air, I may not be here. I wouldn't have been here talking about Tilikum. But as reality goes, the helicopters spotted the mothers and calves. They were chased, cornered, and Tilikum was separated from them. Now, in this hunt, 2 orcas would be killed and many would be injured. There's a very defining moment here. The moment when Tilikum is being lifted in the helicopter. One would expect this pod to swim away to safety. After all, many of them were injured. But the family stays back. Their nose is above the water, and they're crying out to the baby as he's being airlifted, back and forth, Tilikum crying out to his mother till he vanishes into the sky. Tilikum would then be put in a concrete tank where his cries and echoes for help would come right back at him. He would go through a very traumatic experience in the water parks, and it would lead him to kill 3 humans, 2 of whom were his trainers. Do you know how many humans orcas have killed in the wild? There's none recorded so far. Now, the very thought that Tilikum and other mammals like him were stuck and confined to a concrete tank, it disturbed me deeply. And I decided, okay, why don't I bring this up with my children? So as I tucked my little girls into bed one night, I brought up the topic of orcas and rhinos. And their response, it left me stunned. When can I go to a zoo, Amma, to see a rhino? Was the first question. Followed by, let's go to a water park. I want to take pictures with dolphins. I realized with a sinking feeling that the very first place my children thought of to see these animals was the zoo and water park. I couldn't blame them. Somehow we as a society, we had normalized that. It took me right back to the circus when I was a child, and I believed with all my heart that the animals loved entertaining us. Now I really wanted to do something about this. But what? I knew the fastest way to shut down a child's mind is by stating facts and getting them to watch informative videos. And as I sat there wondering what I can do about this, it struck me that the best way to tell the truth was through fiction. And the cherry on top was that I was always accused of being a storyteller. Now wait a minute, let me explain to all of you why I was accused of being a storyteller. You see, I went to a boarding school when I was really little. I went to a school in the beautiful Nilgiris in a hill station called Ooty. My school's name is Nazareth. And it was run by nuns, right, sisters. And I would get into a lot of mischief. And the only way I could save myself was by whipping out story after story after story. Let me give you a gist of what one of my stories looked like. So it so happened that I got caught with forbidden tuck. Now tuck is the goodies and chips and chocolates that you're not supposed to bring from home. I had brought truckloads of them and filled my bed and hid it all under my blanket. My bed looked perfect, but my warden caught me red-handed. I still remember her. She had her arms across her chest. And she glared down at me as she said, "Sindhu, explain yourself." Now me, I took one look at her stern face. I fell on my knees and folded my hands and I said, "Praise God, it's a miracle." Now, I peeped through one of my eyes to look at sister to see if she was happy, but she looked even more upset. So I said, "Sister, see, it's a miracle. I just prayed last night that God would send me chocolates and chips, and look, there's even the lollipops." But sister still looked stupefied. So I said, "Aren't you a good nun, sister? Wasn't it the priest who just told us the other day about the power of prayer and miracles?" Now, I don't want to tell any of you how this panned out or how it all ended, but you get the story, right? You get the scene. I was accused of being a storyteller. And now I thought, why not take this talent of mine and put it to some good use? I sat down to writing almost the very next day. I was cautious, as moms ought to be, to introduce this theme in a very gentle way. I was cheeky, as most moms are, to sprinkle my stories with kindness and values, and aware, as all moms are, that my child or children would not flip that page or hold on to that book unless it was a rip-roaring, hair-pulling, crazy adventure story. And the Trap series was born. My first book, The Hunter's Trap, spoke about elephants hunted for their tusks. My second book, The Circus Trap, spoke about animals performing in circuses. And my third book, The Ocean Trap, spoke about orcas in captivity, of course inspired by Tilikum. In the years to follow, I would have interacted with hundreds and thousands of children who reach out to me and tell me what a beautiful impact they made in this world. They speak about bowls of water that they left out so that birds can come and drink it in summer. Some have rescued squirrels, others have rescued animals, But there was this one child who said that he adopted a tiger. That's right, a tiger. You and I can do that as well. You know, there are champions out there who rescue animals and rehabilitate them. And these children, we as people, we can reach out and we can make a difference by volunteering our time and making a difference. You know, children have an innocence about them. They have an innocence which gets them to believe everything they see and hear. And I feel that the world of marketing, it goes right after this particular innocence of children. And me as an author, I wanted to step in and make a change for them, to reach out to this innocence and make an impact, taking them on a journey to love and cherish and love animals. So friends, what then is the power of fiction? It is the power of our thoughts and actions that transpire into words and actions. It is something powerful that we all have. Fiction has the power to inspire and build just as easily as it can destroy and hurt. Words have a life of their own. Actions have a life of their own. Let's choose kindness. Let's be kind to every kind. Thank you.